What will improve their performance is knowing why it matters. Because a lot of leaders think the answer to low ownership is more reminders, more check ins, more accountability, more follow up, more pressure, more urgency. But sometimes what your team does not need is more pressure. Sometimes what they actually need is more perspective. They need to know what they are building. They need to know where this is going. They need to know why this work matters beyond the immediate tasks sitting in front of them. Because when people only see assignments, they perform like task completers. But when they understand the mission, they start thinking like owners. That is the conversation today. Because one of the most underused leadership tools in any organization is not talent, it is not strategy, and it's not even accountability. It's vision. Not vision that lives in the leader's heart only, and not vision that shows up once a year in a meeting or a slide deck. Not vision that is technically real, but functionally hidden. I'm talking about shared vision. The kind of vision that helps people connect their daily responsibilities to a bigger destination. The kind of vision that gives context to the work. The kind of vision that upgrades performance because it deepens meaning. Because you cannot expect people to carry ownership for a future they have never actually been invited into. And if the team never receives the big picture, then they will keep doing isolated tasks instead of making mission aligned decisions. That is where we're going today on episode 4 of 5 of Am I Growing My Team Because I'm Leading Them? Let's start with the pattern. A leader has a vision, a real one. She knows where the organization is going. She knows what she's building. She knows what the next season means. She knows the larger mission behind the meetings, the projects, the systems, the deadlines, and the deliverables. But her team doesn't fully know it. Maybe they know pieces. Maybe they know slogans. Maybe they know the current initiative. And they may even know what is due this week. But they don't really know where all of this is headed. So what happens? They complete tasks, they respond to requests, they follow instructions, they do what is assigned. But do they not consistently make strong judgment calls on their own? They don't anticipate needs at a higher level. They don't naturally connect dots across departments, projects, or priorities. They don't protect the mission with the same depth the leader does. And then the leader gets frustrated again. Why are they not more proactive? Why do they keep asking me things they should already know? Why are they doing the work but not really owning the work? Why does it still feel like I'm carrying the meaning of all of this by myself? Because if your team only receives instructions, they will function at the level of instructions. People don't rise into ownership just because they were assigned responsibility. They rise into ownership when responsibility is connected to meaning. That's the pattern. And it's common because many leaders assume that because they have vision, the team has vision. But that is not automatically true. Vision that is not shared becomes private motivation. And private motivation cannot build a mission-driven team. I want you to pause right now and ask yourself this question. Does my team know what they are doing, or do they know what they are building? That question matters because those are not the same thing. Knowing what to do creates compliance. Knowing what you are building creates conviction, and conviction changes performance. Now, let me disrupt something like I've been doing all week long, because you know me, I'm the disruptor. If this is happening in your organization, it does not automatically mean your team lacks initiative. It may mean something deeper. It may mean that the leader has mistaken vision possession for vision transfer. In other words, because the vision feels vivid to you, you assume it must be clear to everyone else, but it's not. Because your team is not living inside your mind, kind of like what we talked about yesterday. They are not carrying the same internal language. They do not automatically understand the meaning you attach to every decision, every priority, every standard, every shift. And if that meaning has not been communicated clearly and consistently, then you are asking people to protect a destination they have never fully seen. And that is unfair. And it happens all the time. Many leaders are not actually dealing with disloyal teams. They are dealing with underinformed teams. Many are not dealing with apathy. They are dealing with missing context. Many are not dealing with a refusal to own. They are dealing with teams that have been given tasks without the larger frame that makes those tasks meaningful. That's different. Because if a team does not know why something matters, they will usually perform only to the level of visible requirement. They will do just enough to complete the assignment, but they will not always have the internal compass necessary to make higher level decisions. And then the leader interprets that as a character issue. Well, what if it is a communication issue? What if the gap is vision transfer? That changes the whole conversation because leadership is not just seeing farther, it is helping other people see far enough to move wisely without needing your constant explanation. That's the work. Now let's move into the tension. In your chapter 4, and I keep saying chapter 4 and yesterday chapter 3, it's because my book is about to drop on April 20th. That book, I keep talking about it. It's my team growing because I lead them. You don't want to miss this book. It is the complement to this video series. They both do two very different things, and you want to have this video series with the book. So make sure you DM me, and we'll talk about this at the end. In fact, stay to the end so I can tell you how to get a hold of my book. You can pre-order it. So back to what I was saying. Your chapter 4 core insight says this: you cannot delegate ownership to people who do not know what they are building. You just can't. The moment a team member understands where we are going and why, they stop asking permission and start making judgment calls aligned with the destination. That is the line. Because a lot of leaders want ownership without visibility. They want initiative without context. They want alignment without communication. They want better judgment without giving people the larger frame judgment is supposed to work inside. And that is where this breaks. It just doesn't work this way. Because when vision stays locked in the leader, people cannot make meaning-based decisions. They can only make task-based ones. That means they ask more questions, they hesitate more often, they need more approvals, they stay narrower in their thinking, they struggle to prioritize at the level the leader expects, not because they are incapable, but because the big picture never became shared. That is the tension. You want them to think like leaders, but you have not fully given them the vantage point leaders need. You want them to protect the mission, but you have not fully opened the vault. You want them to make aligned judgment calls, but they are still operating with fragments. And fragments do not produce full ownership. They produce partial execution. That is why this matters, because this is not just about inspiration. This is about operational clarity. When vision is shared, performance improves because people understand what matters. They can prioritize better. They can anticipate better. They can make wiser calls. They can decide faster. They can protect the right things when the leader is not in the room. That is what shared vision does. The emphasis is on the shared part. So I want you to pause here and answer this honestly. Where am I expecting ownership from people I have only given instructions to? That question and your answer will expose a lot, because instructions tell people what to do. Vision tells people why it matters. And if you want judgment, not just compliance, your team needs more than instruction. They need meaning. Now let's widen the frame a bit. Again, vision is not just inspiration. Vision is decision architecture. It is one of the most practical tools a leader has. Why? Because vision gives people a destination. And when people know the destination, they can evaluate options differently. They can ask, does this move us closer? Does this protect the mission? Does this fit who we are becoming? Does this reflect the future we're building? That changes everything, because teams without vision tend to operate reactively. You know, there's a verse that says, without a vision, the people perish. And that's absolutely true. They focus on whatever is loudest, whatever is nearest, whatever is most immediately assigned, whatever feels most urgent in the moment. But teams with shared vision begin to operate with intentionality. They understand how today connects to tomorrow. They understand that the task is not random. They understand that their role matters inside a larger mission. They understand what they are helping build. That makes performance deeper, not just faster, deeper. And that is what many leaders miss. They try to improve performance by tightening supervision, when what would improve performance more is expanding context, because context creates better judgment, and better judgment creates stronger ownership. That is why your chapter summary in the book that you're going to download and pre-order is so important. It says most leaders have a vision, but the problem is that it never becomes a shared vision. The team never receives the big picture. So they see isolated tasks instead of the mission for the vision. That is the whole issue. The leader sees a movement, the team sees a list. And when that happens, the leader always feels like the only person carrying the true weight of the work. And that gets lonely, unavoidably so. Here's a practical exercise for you today. Think of one recurring responsibility on your team, just one. Now ask yourself this question. If I ask the person carrying this one responsibility why it matters to the bigger mission, could they answer clearly? Whew, that's either an amen or an ouch. Because if the answer is no, that is not just a communication gap. That is a leadership gap, because people protect what they understand and they give their best to what they believe matters. So how do you begin to open the vision vault? Let me give you several anchors here, like I do every day. Number one, stop assuming vision is obvious, because it's not. What is clear to you after months and years of building may still be foggy to the people supporting the work day to day. If you want ownership, and that is shared ownership, you need shared understanding. That means repeating the why, repeating the destination, repeating the larger meaning behind the current work, not once, consistently. Number two, connect tasks to the mission. Don't just assign work, translate it. Help people see why this matters, what it supports, what larger goal is it'll move forward, what consequence it has if done poorly, what opportunity it creates if done well. That is how daily activity becomes meaningful responsibility. Number three, invite people into the bigger frame. Some leaders keep the full vision close to their chest because they are afraid people will not understand it, they won't steward it, and they won't value it. But if you never share it, they cannot grow into it. And if they cannot grow into it, they will always stay dependent on your interpretation. And that is not sustainable. A leader who wants mature ownership has to open the vault enough for the team to see the future they are being asked to serve. Number four, reinforce vision in ordinary moments. Vision should not only appear in kickoff meetings or retreats or annual planning conversations. It has to show up in regular leadership, in one-on-ones, in team meetings, in feedback, in prioritization, in decision making, in the way you explain why something matters. Because the more often people hear the why, the more naturally they begin to think from it. Number five, use vision to develop judgment. This matters, so you want to lean in. You don't just share vision to motivate people emotionally. You share vision so they can make better calls without you. That's the goal. A team member who understands the destination can often resolve smaller decisions without needing your immediate involvement. Why? Because the destination becomes a filter. That is how shared vision reduces unnecessary dependence. Number six, got to get these fingers right. Understand that vision transfer is part of people development. Many leaders think people development is mostly about skill, but skill without mission context creates narrow execution. People need more than capability. They need connection. They need to see how their work fits into the bigger whole. That is what turns task completion into ownership. So let me paint this picture for you today. A leader is building something meaningful. She can see the future clearly. She knows the impact she wants to make. She knows the standard she wants the organization to carry. She knows why this next season matters. And she knows why certain priorities matter more than others. She even knows what she is ultimately trying to protect, build, and advance. But her team mostly receives assignments. Handle this, finish that, follow up here, state this, get that done by Friday. So the team works. They do the tasks. They meet the deadlines. They complete what is requested. But they do not always show the level of ownership the leader wishes they would. They don't always anticipate what is coming next. They don't always make the strongest decisions in the gray areas. They don't always prioritize the right things without being told. And guess what? The leader gets frustrated yet again, because in her mind, the importance of all of this is absolutely obvious. But the truth is, the why has not been transferred with enough depth for the team to carry it. So they are executing activity without full access to meaning. And meaning changes how people work. When you know why something matters, you handle it differently. You protect it differently. You prioritize it differently. You think more carefully about it. You notice more. You own more. That is why vision matters, because without it, people may still work hard, but they often work narrow. And narrow work does not create the depth of ownership leaders say they want. That is why a hidden vision becomes a costly leadership habit. Not because the vision is absent, but because it is locked away, like in a vault. And locked away vision cannot form a team. It can only burden a leader. So it's decision time. Here's that fork in the road again. You have two choices. You can keep leading with private vision and public instructions, or you can make the harder but healthier decision to share the bigger picture in a way that allows your team to grow into stronger ownership. That's the decision. Do you want people who only complete tasks? Or do you want people who can protect the mission? Do you want people who keep checking back with you for direction? Or do you want people who can make judgment calls because they understand the destination? Do you want to keep carrying all the meaning by yourself? Or do you want to build a team that knows why the work matters deeply enough to carry it with you? That choice matters, and that choice is yours. Because the level of ownership on your team is often connected to the level of vision they have truly received from you. And if the vision remains mostly private, the ownership will remain limited. That does not mean every person needs every detail, but it does mean people need enough of the larger frame to understand what they are supporting and why it matters. That's leadership. Not just having a vision, but transferring it. Not just seeing it farther, but teaching others to see far enough to move in alignment. That is how mission-driven culture gets built. So before we close today, here's your final reflection for today. What part of the bigger picture have I been assuming my team understands that I actually need to say out loud this week? Just one part, one layer of meaning, one larger frame, one clear why. Because one clear explanation can create more ownership than 10 extra reminders. And that is how stronger teams begin. And this is exactly why I've been writing this book, Is My Team Growing Because I Lead Them? I am so excited about this book. Yes, I've written other books in the past, but this one is something different about it. You have got to get this book. Is my team growing because I lead them? Because many leaders think their team problem is motivation, when sometimes the deeper issue is that the team has never fully received the vision necessary to make the work meaningful and the mission shared. In the fourth chapter of my book, The Vision Vault, which is the name of the chapter, it's about exposing that gap and helping leaders understand that shared vision is one of the most practical tools they have for improving ownership, judgment, and alignment. So, my leadership strategy guide that I've been talking about, Is My Team Growing Because I Lead Them? It's available for pre-order right now. Yes. And this week's video series is giving you a live preview of the 5 internal shifts at the center of the book. Now, the official launch for when the digital version of my book drops is Monday, April 20th. But the pre-orders are open right now. All you have to do is drop the word growing into the comments or the chat, or you can even DM me the word growing and I'll get you the link. So if this conversation is helping you see leadership more clearly, go ahead and pre-order the book, because what we are doing this week is not content for content's sake. We are uncovering the internal leadership patterns that quietly keep teams from thriving. Now, tomorrow is day 5 of the series. It's the last day. And we close the series with a conversation a lot of leaders avoid. Tomorrow is about development. It's about the fear some leaders carry when it comes to fully investing in their people. Tomorrow's episode is about what happens when a leader is afraid to pour in because they do not want to be left. Yeah, you heard me. It's about why trying to keep people by limiting their growth usually produces the exact opposite result. And that conversation goes deeper than most leaders expect. So you definitely want to come back for episode 5 because I'm going even deeper. It's going to touch you. And if today exposed what happens when vision stays trapped in the leader's head, tomorrow is going to expose what happens when development gets trapped by fear. So I'll see you then.